Tolee, paartii sadaffaa haala kanaan immoo walitti deebinee jirra. Yeroo darbe filtireeshinii irratti dhaabne paartii tokko keessatti achuma irraa kaanee paartii sadaffaa kana itti fufnaa jechuudha. Okay, jalqabna. Filtireeshin jedha. Filtration take place through the semi-permeable wall of the glomerular capillary keessatti take place ta'a jechuudha. Filtireeshin eessatti jalqabachuu dha? Semi-permeable wall of glomerular capillary keessatti glomerulus keessatti kan jalqabudha. Impermeable molecular size above 7 nanometer. Above 7 nanometer impermeable ta'a jechuudha. But less than the 7 is permeability ta'a jechuudha. Virtually free of protein and has no cellular elements. Free of protein. Virtually it is free of protein and has no cellular elements. The driving hydrostatic pressure is controlled by afferent and dependent arterioles jechuudha. Driving hydrostatic pressure is controlled by the afferent and dependent arterioles provided by arterial pressure. The driving hydrostatic pressure is controlled by the efferent and afferent arterioles and provided by arterial pressure. About 20% of renal plasma flow is filtered each minute. 125 ml per minute. About 20% of the renal plasma flow is filtered each minute. Each minute. Daqiiqaa tokko keessatti around 125%, 125 milliliter per minute kan renal plasma percentage 20 akkanni flowtu argina. This is glomerular filtration rate ta'a jechuudha. Glomerular filtration rate is about 100, about 20% of the renal plasma flow is filtered each minute. About 20% of the renal plasma flow is filtered each minute, around 125 milliliter per minute. This is glomerular filtration rate. Continuously filtration is the autoregulation. The auto process in which glomerular has to be kept fairly constant. Autoregulation jechuun yeroo itti glomerular rate has to be kept yeroon haala dhaabbataadhaan ta'uu argina. Autoregulation of glomerular filtration rate achieved by autoregulation of renal blood flow. Autoregulation of renal blood flow. Autoregulation of renal blood flow and the feedback known as glomerular tubular balance. Autoregulation is a process in which glomerular has to be kept fairly constant. Autoregulation of GFR or glomerular filtration rate is achieved by autoregulation of renal blood flow. Maali achieved ta'a jechuudha. Autoregulation of renal blood flow dhaan achieved ta'a. And the feedback mechanism known as what is glomerular tubular balance. Autoregulation of glomerular filtration rate is achieved by autoregulation of the renal blood flow and the feedback mechanism known as glomerular tubular balance. Glomerular tubular balance when there is a decrease in GFR, there is resulting decrease in fluid flow rate within the tube. When there is a decrease in GFR, there is resulting decrease in fluid flow rate within the tube. As lipophenil there is greater time for the absorption of sodium and chloride. As the lipophenil there is greater time for the reabsorption of sodium and chloride. Therefore, there is a decrease in number of sodium and the chloride ion reaching the distal tube, which detect macular inside can detect the molecule when there is a decrease in number of sodium and the chloride ion, which is when there is a decrease in the number of decrease in the number of sodium and chloride are reaching the distal tube is detected by the macula densa. This sudden decrease the result in apparent artery which are the results in an increased renal blood flow. This is an increase. This in turn decrease, not increase. The resistance in apparent artery which results in an increased renal blood flow. It also releases renin. Maal to increase the renin is increase. Kun maaluma maagulaaleen isaa dhangaan detectedhamu inni immoo in turn decrease the resistance in the apparent artery keessatti resistance itti jiru akka inni xiqqaa which results an increase renal blood flow. Bu'aan isaa immoo renal blood flow akka inni increase ta'uudha jechuudha. Akkasuma dabalee also increase renin. When there is in turn decrease resistance in apparent artery which results in increased renal blood flow, also increase renin release. Hamma renin release ta'u kan increase from juxtaglomerular apparatus which stimulates angiotensin second. Maaltu stimulate stimulate kaka'umsatu jechuudha. Angiotensin second production ta'u kan or angiotensin second production kan stimulate when there is turn decrease resistance in apparent artery and artery which increase renin release from the juxta. Yeroo renin release ta'u increase ta'u from juxtaglomerular apparatus irraa renin release ta'u increase ta'u maaltu stimulate angiotensin second production stimulate ta'a jechuudha. Sababa causing constriction of efferent artery causing constriction of sababa efferent artery keenya constrict ta'uufi jechuudha. Kanaaf itti dabalee kun immoo cuunfaa summary of this idea kun immoo decrease arterial pressure yommuu inni gabu there is decrease glomerular hydrostatic pressure. Decrease arterial pressure, decrease the glomerular hydrostatic pressure. This is when there is a decreased glomerular hydrostatic pressure, there is decreased glomerular filtration rate. When there is a decreased glomerular filtration rate, there is which occur, there is decreased macular densa sodium chloride decreased. When the macular densa sodium chloride is decreased, renal release is increased and angiotensin second is increased. And when the angiotensin second is increased, angiotensin second is increased, the efferent there is increased efferent arterial resistance jechuudha. Yeroo kana immoo glomerular filtration pressure keenyas increase ta'a yookiin immoo when macular densa sodium chloride gaafa decrease ta'u afferent arterial keenya immoo maal ta'a jechuudha decrease ta'a. The opposite of efferent arterial resistance jechuudha. When our efferent arterial is increase, afferent arterial is decrease ta'a jechuudha. Yeroo kana when afferent arterial is decrease, there is increased glomerular filtration pressure jechuudha. Juxtaglomerular complex kan jedhu inni kun immoo maaltu waan keessattuu kan jedhu renin release ta'uudha jechuudha. Increased renin release cause of the increase efferent arterial jechuudha. Glomerular juxtaglomerular complex macular densa bakka macular densa of keessaa kan qabudha. Which is macular densa keessaa qabaa jechuudha. Maaltu juxtaglomerular complex has consists of macular densa which are special distilled blood epithelial cells which detect chloride concentration, the modified isthmus muscles. Juxtaglomerular cell in wall of the afferent and efferent artery. This cell produce renin. Juxtaglomerular complex. Extraglomerular complexi consists of macula densa cells of keessaa hanga qabuudha, which are special macula densa cell which are special distal tubular epithelial cell which detect chloride concentration. Distal tubular epithelial cell kan ta'e kun jechuudha. Distal tubular epithelial cell kan ta'e kun immoo maal detect godha? Chloride concentration. Distal tubular epithelial cell kun immoo maaltu detect nu godha jechuudha? Detect chloride concentration keenya jechuudha. And modified smooth muscle cell. Maal detect godha? Chloride concentration and modified smooth muscle cells. The extraglomerular cells in walls of apparent and different arteriole. And this cell produce rain. Rainiin immoo adeemsa kana keessatti ni uumama. When the extraglomerular cell in walls of apparent and different arteriole. Kana processii kana gaafa fennu jechuudha. Rain is produced that simply extraglomerular complex is constant macula densa cell which are special tubular epithelial cell which detect chloride concentration and modified smooth muscle cells. The extraglomerular cell in wall of apparent and different arteriole. That this cell is produced when rain is an enzyme which convert plasma protein gara angiotensin to angiotensin protein. Convert plasma protein angiotensin gara angiotensin first kan jijjiiru maal rain is an enzyme which converts plasma protein angiotensin to angiotensin first kan jijjiiru maalidha? Renin enzyme which converts plasma protein angiotensin to angiotensin first. Angiotensin second immoo maal? That is angiotensin second which cause vasoconstriction and increased blood pressure. Sababa maal cause angiotensin second cause vasoconstriction fi increased blood pressure dhiibbaa dhiigaa kan dabaluun vasoconstriction kan uumu angiotensin second jechuudha. Angiotensin second also stimulates the adrenal gland to produce aldosterone. Angiotensin second also stimulates maal kakaasa adrenal gland to produce aldosterone produce gochuudhaaf angiotensin second kun to produce aldosterone produce gochuudhaaf adrenal gland kan stimulate godhu angiotensin second it is used to stimulate adrenal gland to produce aldosterone which causes water and sodium retention which together increase blood pressure. Increase the blood pressure. This is negative feedback mechanism system. Feedback system negative feedback system. When blood volume, renal perfusion. When the blood volume, renal. When the blood volume, renal perfusion and the glomerular filtration improves the system feeds back to switch off or turn down response to stimulus. When blood volume qabiyyee renal perfusion and GFR or glomerular filtration rate improve systems feedback to switch off or turn down response to stimulus. Renin angiotensin aldosterone axis. Renin angiotensin aldosterone axis. Principal factor controlling angiotensin second levels in renin release. The principal factor controlling angiotensin second levels is renal release. Principal factor in maal angiotensin secondary, level angiotensin secondary control good. Maal renal release is used to renal release. Decreased circulating volume stimulates. Decreased circulating volume stimulates. Hammi marsaa qabiyyee circulating volume stimulates renal release via decreased blood pressure and decreased sodium chloride at macroaudience. Decreased circulating volume stimulates renal release via decreased BP or blood pressure. Decreased circulating volume stimulates renal release via decreased blood pressure and decreased sodium chloride at macroaudience. Decreased renal perfusion pressure. Decreased sodium chloride at macroaudience. Decreased renal pressure perfusion pressure jechuudha. Kanammoo akkuma keessanii jala inni itti aanu waa'ee selective and passive absorption. Renal tube function absorbs select about 99% of glomerular filtrate. Function absorbs selective about 99% of glomerular filtrate. Renal tube function absorbs selectively about 99% of glomerular filtrate. Proximal renal tubuline kun jechuudha. They absorb selective about glomerular filtrate around 99% kan filtrate godhu. Glomerular filtrate absorb kan godhu. Absorb selectively about 99% of glomerular filtrate kan renal tubule function. Proximal tubuline immoo reabsorb 60% of all solids, which includes 100% of glucose and amino acids and 90% of bicarbonate and 80 up to 90% of inorganic phosphates and water. Reabsorption is either by active or passive transport. Active transport requires energy to require energy. Active transport requires energy. Active transport requires energy to move solid against an electrochemical. Active transport requires energy. Requires energy to move solid against an electrochemical or concentration gradient. Annisaa barbaada. Active transport requires energy to move solids against an electrochemical or concentration gradient. Move gochuudhaaf require energyidha. Maqaatti active transport requires energy to move an electrochemical or concentration gradient. It is main determinant. It's main determinant of oxygen consumption by kidney. Main determinant of oxygen consumption by kidney jechuudha. Inni itti aanu immoo about passive transport. Where absorb occur down an electrochemical pressure and the concentration gradient jechuudha. Is where back reabsorptions occurs down an electrochemical pressure or concentration gradient. Active transport pumping outside, inside. So this. Most of solid reabsorption is active. Soluting keenya baay'een isaanii soluting keenya most of the solid reabsorption most of them are whatidha activeidha jechuudha. Most of the solid reabsorption is active. Active means active transport. Active transport jechuu jechuudha. with water being freely permeable and therefore moving by osmosis with water. Bishaan waliin freely permeable kan ta'an kun moving by osmosis adeemsa osmoosiitiin kan deemanidha jechuudha. When active reabsorption of solid from the tubule occurs, when the active reabsorption of solid from the tubule occurs, murtiin uumamu there is a fall in concentration and hence osmotic activity within the tubule. When the active reabsorption of solid from the tubule occurs, yeroo active reabsorption of solid tubule keenya irraa uumamu jedhu there is a fall in concentration. Concentration gadi bu'aa yookiis kufaataa and hence osmotic activity within the tubule. Fall in concentration and hence osmotic activity within a tubule. And the other one is water then moves bishaan deebi'ee because of then moves because of osmotic forces to area outside the tubule. Ala tubule sanaatti mooftaa jechuudha. Where the concentration solid is higher. When the concentration solid is higher, water then moves because of osmotic forces to the area outside the tubule where the concentration of solid is higher. Lupofenil. Lupofenil is one of the main parts of the nephron. Lupofenil is part of tubule which dips or loops from the cortex into medulla. Dips or loops from cortex into medulla. Descending limb then returns to the cortex or ascending limb. Medulla or descending limb and then returns to the cortex or ascending limb. Part of tubule which dips or loops from cortex into medulla. Part of tubule which dips or loops from cortex into the medulla. Descending limb and then returns back or returns to the cortex or ascending limb. And lupofenil is part of tubule where urine is concentrated. Simply where the part of tubule where urine is concentrated if necessary. This is possible because of high concentration of solids in substance or interstitium of the medulla. Because of high concentration of solid in substance or interstitium of the medulla. Proximal tubule glomerulati bu'uuraan qabsiifamee jira. Proximal tubule lupofenil dips or loops from cortex into medulla or descending limb then returns to the cortex or ascending limb. Part of tubule where urine is concentrated necessary. This is possible because high concentration of solid in substance or intestinal medulla. Lupofenil distal tubule jira. Collecting tracting jira jechuudha. Vasa recta. Barreeffamni isaa mul'atu garuu amma ta'e dubbisaa moruu yookaan hin mul'atu ta'e sagalee makuu dhaggeeffachuu dandeessu. Vasa recta. Vasa recta is portion of peritubular capillary system which enters the medulla. Portion of peritubular capillary system which enters the medulla where the solid concentration in the intestine is high. Portion of peritubular capillary system which enters the medulla where the solid concentration in the intestine is high. Vasa recta is a portion of peritubular capillary system portionii vertebral capillary systemii ta'ee which enters the medulla. Medullaa keessa kan galu kan ta'u where the solid concentration is intermittent. The solid concentration is high jechuudha. Portion of the vertebral capillary system which enters the medulla where the solid concentration in the interstitium is high jechuudha. Taansee it acts with the loop of vein. Maal jenna it acts with the loop of vein to concentrate urine. Urine concentrate gochuudhaaf activis loop of vein by a complex mechanism of counter-current exchange. By complex mechanism of counter-current exchange. If vasorector did not exist, don't forget, did not exist, the high concentration of solids in the medullary interstitium would be washed out. If the vasorector did not exist, the high concentration of solids in the medullary interstitium would be if the vasorector did not exist. The high concentration of solids in the medullary interstitium will be washed out. Kana namni kamiyyuu akka danqanne jechuudha. Vasorector'n jiru taanaan the high concentration of solids in the medullary interstitium will be washed out. Washed out. Descending tubule counter-current mechanismii keessatti descending tubule keessatti water impermeable, salt impermeable, ascending tubule keessatti immoo salt impermeable, water impermeable dha. Medullary osmotic gradient is maintained by blade in vasorector and isotonic the interstitial fluid. Medullary osmotic gradient is maintained by blade in vasorector and isotonic the interstitial fluid. Tajaajila active sodium chloride transport passive counter-current exchange solids active counter-current multiplication jedha. More ofii dubbisa. Starting and the collecting ducts. Starting fi collecting duct. Starting immoo one part of tubule and the collecting duct is one of part of nephron. And both of them are parts of nephron ta'anii the final concentration of urine is dependent the final concentration of urine depends upon amount of antidiuretic hormone bakka final concentration of urine depends upon antidiuretic hormone the final concentration of urine depends upon the antidiuretic hormone or ADH secreted by posterior lobe of pituitary. Final concentration of urine depends upon antidiuretic hormone secreted by the posterior lobe of pituitary jechuudha. If antidiuretic hormone is present in the tubule and the collecting duct become permeable to water. If the antidiuretic hormone is present in the tubule, the collecting duct will become permeable to water ta'a jechuudha. Permeable to water. As collecting duct passes through the medulla. Yeroo collecting duct passes through the medulla with high solid concentration in the interstitium, the water moves out of the lumen. As the collecting duct passes through the medulla, with high solid concentration in the interstitium, the water moves out of lumen. water moves out of the lumen of duct. Out of Water moves out of the lumen of duct, and concentrated urine is formed as the collecting duct passes through the medulla with high solid concentration in the intestine. The water moves out of the lumen of the duct, and the concentrated urine form yeroo collecting duct passes through medulla keessa bahu with high solid concentration intestine keessa jechuudha. Bishaan yookiis water moves out of lumen keessa lumen of duct keessaa wantoota move ta'a jechuudha. And urine concentrated ta'e immoo formed ta'a jechuudha. If the absence of antidiuretic hormone, the tubule is minimally permeable to water. So large quantities dilute urine is formed. Dilute urine immoo formed kan inni ta'u if there is a absence of antidiuretic hormone. The tubule is minimally permeable to water. If the absence of antidiuretic hormone, the tubule is minimally permeable to water. So large quantities of dilute urine is formed ta'a jechuudha. Kana keessatti wanti nuti qabachuu qabnu yeroo ADHO antidiuretic hormone hin jiru keessatti the collecting duct become permeable to water ta'a. Yeroo immoo absence of antidiuretic hormone hin jiru keessatti immoo the tubules antidiuretic hormone the tubules tubuliin keenya yookiis the tubuliin keenya immoo minimally permeable to water ta'a. Hamma xiqqoodhaan minimally permeable to water. So large dilute units formed bakka large quantities of dilute units formed ta'a jechuudha. Installed in the collecting duct continuously. There are cells within hypothalamus osmoreceptor which are sensitive to changes in osmotic pressure of the blood. If there is low water intake, there are cells within the hypothalamus osmoreceptors. There are cells within hypothalamus. Seeliidhaa wajjin there are cells seenanii jiru. Maal hypothalamus keessa jiran. There are cells within hypothalamus osmoreceptors which are sensitive to changes osmotic pressure of the blood. Osmoreceptors are sensitive to changes in osmotic pressure of blood. Osmoreceptor sensitive to changes in osmotic pressure of blood. If there is low water intake, there is a rise in osmotic pressure of blood. Hamma bishaan of keessatti fudhannu yeroo xiqqaatu there is rise osmotic pressure of blood guddaatu jira. After excessive intake of water, the reverse means when we are take excess of water, there is low or opposed to rise in osmotic pressure of blood. If there is low water intake, there is rise in osmotic pressure of blood after excess intake of water, the reverse ta'a jechuudha. Yookiis immoo inni rise ture namoonni low ta'a yookiis gadi bu'aa jechuudha. Nerve impulses from hypothalamus stimulate the posterior pituitary to produce antidiuretic hormone when the osmotic pressure of the blood rises. Nerve impulses from the hypothalamus stimulates posterior pituitary nerve impulses from the hypothalamus stimulate the posterior pituitary to produce ADH or antidiuretic hormone when osmotic pressure of the blood is rise. Yeroo osmotic pressure rise ta'u osmotic pressure of the blood rise kan inni ta'u when there is a low water intake jechuudha. When there is a low water intaking maal rise osmotic pressure of blood uumaa. Yeroo kanatti immoo nerve impulse from hypothalamus maal stimulate godha pituitary posterior pituitary stimulate godha. Inni immoo posterior pituitary immoo gaafa stimulate ta'u maaltu produce ADH is antidiuretic hormone immoo produce ta'a jechuudha. As a result, water loss in kidney is reduced because antidiuretic hormones hammi bishaanii loss ta'u reduced ta'a. Yeroo bishaan gara keessaatti fudhan xiqqaatu maaltu guddaa ta'a jechuudha. Osmotic pressure of blood hin guddataa. Yeroo inni guddatu immoo nerve impulse and from the hypothalamus immoo dhaamsi nervaa hypothalamus jedhamu maal stimulate godha posterior pituitary stimulate godha. Yeroo posterior pituitary immoo stimulate ta'u antidiuretic hormone immoo produce ta'a. Yeroo kana immoo yeroo water lossiin bu'aan isaa immoo hamma bishaanii kalee keenya keessaa loss ta'u immoo reduce ta'a. Sababa maaliif antidiuretic hormone secrete ta'eef hammi bishaanii kalee keenya keessaa loss ta'u gadi bu'aa jechuudha. And water reabsorbed in collecting duct keessatti immoo yoo kana deebi'ee bishaan maal ta'a reabsorbed ta'a jechuudha. Kanaaf waan ammaatti dhaggeeffataniif galatoomaa yaada qabdan. Gaaffii wanta isin hin galle hundumaa asumaan na gaafachuu dandeessu. Galatoomaa yeroo gaarii qabaadhaa.